Your show's rubbish.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the D-Trout Spinners podcast with Miles and Gary. How you doing, Gary?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thanks. You're mellower than usual for some reason.
Do you know why? It's because you caught me just after a slumber, a deep nap.
We've arranged to talk before at like 1 o'clock or 12, like midday, and we'll like get to 1. I'll text him, he's not answering. 2 o'clock, he's texting me, I'm not answering. We basically keep falling asleep either side of each other, not literally, and we're two old men already. But
I know we're 30. It's just because I don't know. I wasn't feeling very well today, and then I had low energy, so I had a nap between watching. I've been watching the like Jason Bourne films as well, so I've been sort of going in between that. And you know when you wake up and then you text me, it's like, do you want to do a pod? And I was like, I was like,
but earlier you text me saying exactly the same thing, and I was like that because I had a lot to do. I was
because I know I just sat down with a nice warm curry and some naan bread that I made myself.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I actually made the paste and everything.
Did you blend it up into a soup? I hope you did.
No, not yet.
Not anymore. But anyway, yeah. So welcome to the show, and it's a special show today. It's a bit different. We've done one of these before once. We're just going to go through your feedback, and we have a feature on the show. If you're a regular listener, you'll know XFM in the community, where we go through your feedback at the end of each show. But we've had quite a bit of feedback, and we really appreciate it from all of you. So what we're going to do this show is just go through that feedback all in one show. So if you've gotten in touch with us over the past few days, keep listening because we will read your email out. And yeah, that's pretty much the whole show. So if you like it, good. And if you don't, I don't know what my next sentence is. Don't listen. Go away. No.
I just swung over to Miles. Has he got any words for me?
Yeah.
No, and if the bloke who said my laugh is annoying, if he could get in touch as well, that'd be great.
Well, he said it in stronger language than that, didn't he?
Well, I think
he despises it. Anyway, let's get on with it. Mars, what's the first email?
Okay, this is from EG, and he or she got in touch via our YouTube page, which you can still do that. We've got a D-Trout Spinners YouTube page, and where we upload all the shows, so available on Acast, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, all the major ones.
He's a fine example of something. That's a little joke there. Because EG, you say EG and then you still...
Got it. Yeah. A podcast about my favourite podcast. Unbelievable. I love this. Especially as an American, I know nobody familiar with these shows. This is almost like finding more XFM material. I'm so happy right now. That's a great compliment. Lovely. And American, another, we keep getting a lot of American listeners.
We do, Erin, and there's others as well. And I think that...
You've named 2. Can you name another? Can you name the third?
Yeah. Actually, I can't. But I'm just thinking of Erin, and I'm sure there are others. But obviously, when you think about Gervais, because people in America would never have found the XFM shows unless it was for Gervais. He's probably more well known in America than any other country, than Britain. So I can see them, and a lot of other fans have said to us they retrospectively got into them from listening to or watching the animated podcasts, and then finding out that there were tapes before that. So and obviously they were big in America. So yeah, it's nice to have an American listener. Do you ski? Yes or no? Thank you, EG. Really appreciate your email. Yeah, glad you like the show.
Yep. I agree with all those sentiments. This one's from Adam. Hi, Miles and Gary. I've been a long-term listener of your podcast and a fan of the XFM shows for many years. It must have been around 2007 when I found them through a friend after listening to the 2005 podcasts and have loved them ever since. I just couldn't get enough of Carl and his outlook on the world, and have lost count of how many times I've listened to each show. I was a member of the Facebook group called the Carl Pilkington Appreciation Society. Oh, this is a fantastic email. And somehow through the group, I met my wife and eventually moved to Canada from Australia to be with her. Now we have been married for over 7 years. Congratulations. We included Carl elements in our wedding, including Congress tarts and Having Wonderful Tonight as our first dance song.
That's so sweet. I've read this before, but it's just
great.
It's amazing that that actually happened. Like,
I know.
Like,
it's got to be probably one of the first Carl Pilkington, certainly XFM weddings.
Yeah, themed weddings, absolutely, yeah.
One time as a birthday gift for her, I created a recording using clips from the shows with me interacting with the three guys and making my own rockbusters. Good present. Good present. The impact of Carl and the XFM shows is quite mesmerizing and is demonstrated by the fact that you two started a podcast almost 20 years ago after the first two broadcasts. Keep up the good work. I'm sure you have introduced many new people to the recordings and have rejuvenated a passion to us old listeners. Cheers, Adam. Well, thanks, Adam. I was so blown away when I read that because, I mean, you know me, I'm a bit of an old romantic. That's like a film. That has got to be a film. And how people meet these days, like, through like Facebook groups, but also to then create, we talk all the time on the show about how these shows connect people, but to take it that one step further,
and take it about 12 steps further.
Yeah, I know.
Because you like in a Facebook group, you might post I tried to think how it would have happened. So one of them probably posted a comment, Adam or his wife, his now wife, and then one of them reacted in some way, and then they kind of got chatting. But to go from there to I'm moving to Canada from Australia, and actually Canada to Australia is probably as far away as you can get.
What a sacrifice as well to like.
But it's not necessarily a sacrifice. Canada and Australia are both similar countries, so it's not like he's not moved to a non-English speaking country to.
No, but but it's romantic, isn't it?
No, it's absolutely. Of course, it genuinely is romantic. And you know me, Miles. I'm not an old romantic, but I find that so romantic. And it's very sweet.
We are running a competition actually. If you want to be Gary's wife, email in SpanishPopCon@gmail.com.
No, don't say that, because if people think we're being genuine, and then they'll think that will sound offensive. But I am on the lookout for a Mrs. F. No, but I'll have to join more Facebook groups, I think.
Clearly, you're on the wrong Facebook groups.
We were talking about this email.
You've got to get off those Nazi right-wing conspiracy groups and, on these ones.
I just like fueling the fire, mate. I just like fueling fires. But we were talking about this email, and like I said, you said it was absolutely sweet and lovely, which I agree with, that the story that happened to him. But you said, I think for my sake, I probably am better with a girlfriend who doesn't like the shows at all. And I kind of got what you meant by that. Like, you don't want to, like, you want differences in a relationship.
That's just me. I think because I'm into so many, I've got loads of my stuff that my girlfriend doesn't like, Father Ted, Office.
Yeah, anything different. No, but it's not. But you know, in general, you say that's a good thing. And when I've been in relationships, I've liked the fact that we have different tastes in things.
Yeah.
But I think with this, it's so amazing. It's such a big thing in our lives that but that they must be the only two, almost the only couple.
But can you imagine going to bed and it's like you're both in bed, you're both resting, and it's like pop on the laptop, love, and it's the XFM shows, and you're just both chilling out listening to the XFM shows.
Yeah, because I can't imagine
enjoying it.
I can't imagine there's a couple in the world. There might be one or two couples where both of them really like the XFM show, let alone that they got together through the XFM show, but just a couple, two separate people who are together, where both of them really like the XFM show. That in itself must be incredibly rare. But to actually meet through the group, Adam, I'd love to know a bit more detail. That's such a lovely story that if you can furnish us with more details if you want, but if it's private, that's fine. But it was lovely to hear, and thank you for your comments about the show. Again, really appreciate them. And I'm a bit jealous. He's married. Steve's looking annoyed. Gary's looking annoyed. Gary's looking annoyed. He's got married.
This one's from Glenn. Hi guys, Glenn from Toronto here. Big fan of the pod. Have been listening to the XFM shows for 8 to 9 years now.
It's not Adam's wife, is it? Glenn.
It's
Toronto.
No,
It's
no,
just
I don't think so.
anyway.
Can you
Sorry.
imagine? 8 or 9 years now, and your show for a couple of months. It warms my heart to know there's at least a couple of other mental fans out there. I cannot count on my fingers and toes how many dark and depressing times in my life have been made bearable by listening to this trio and self-professed freaks. Whenever the weight of the world becomes too much, I switch on the XFM podcasts, and I'm soon chuckling myself to sleep. Lately, I've been switching between XFM and the D-Trout Spinners to get a fresh perspective on the shows, and you guys rarely disappoint. But there is one thing that has been bothering me. Why do you guys have such an aversion to season 1? I believe you explained this at the beginning of your podcast, that Carl doesn't play a very important role in the first season, hence your decision to skip it. But I have to disagree with you. I've just finished re-listening to the first 23 episodes for the millionth time and enjoyed every one immensely. You have the old woman with a baby inside her, early monkey news, kids chasing cars, the cock discussion, French bread, Carl being chased by a bee, and Chinese people all look the same, to name a few. Anyways, I digress. Keep up the good work, lads, and maybe next time I'm over the pond, I can buy you both a couple of pints. Now, listen, Glenn, you are very welcome to buy us a couple of pints when you're over here. We'd love to chat and meet up with you.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's a show we might do with listeners in the future. But firstly, Glenn, thank you so much for your email. Really appreciate all your comments. Yeah, it's lovely that you are switching between the shows. And actually, what you said, and you said it in a very eloquent way, is similar to what other people have said to us. And we've read it out, that the shows have helped them through very, very difficult times. And it's great that it's helped you in that way. And it's great that you're kind of now switching between us and the XFM shows. And
yeah,
that's lovely. With regards to your comment, that's completely fair. I would say that we didn't do it because Carl wasn't as important in series 1. We know absolutely, about the horse in the house, a lot of the classic stories that are referred to in season 2 and 3 are actually from season 1. So it's by no means that we don't like season 1 or it's not as good in our eyes. I think it's got a lot of value. I think we just felt that when we started, we weren't sure exactly. We knew that there was a big fan base, not of us, but of XFM shows.
My mum. There was my mum.
My dad. No, he doesn't listen. But no, there was a big fan base of the XFM shows. But I think we thought basically series 2 is more known, and quite a few people do start on series 2. However, your comment is completely valid. I'm glad you said it, because I'm glad to know that people do disagree with that decision. But we will be going to series 1 either after series 2, or maybe we'll pop in a series 1 episode every now and again in between what we do. I don't know. We need to discuss.
Why we wanted to get into season 2 is because we knew there were so many strong episodes, particularly when you're talking about like the rivalry between Steve and Carl, and it really comes to it feels just, I don't know, for me it felt like a lot more like a richer, like fuller experience. Like it just feels like there was so much more to get your teeth into. And of course we will come back to series 1, we will definitely revisit that, but I think we've just got so many things to come, so many fun moments to come, and also loads of guests on the way. Fingers crossed.
Well, fingers crossed, absolutely. Yeah, I would just to add, just to finish on that point. Yeah, season 2 is perhaps, the shows are what I would call more complete. I don't mean better necessarily. I think a lot of them are better, but not all of them at all. There are some great shows in series 1, but it's more of a complete trio by the beginning of season 2, and that's why we started there. But by all means, we could have started on series 1, and it would have been completely just as valid, or maybe even better in some ways. But so we felt more people would be aware of series 2, and they were fuller. It was more complete trio. But what we always intended to do, we never intended to just leave series 1. We always intended to revisit. But after we did series 2, which is a more complete show, we then go back to the genesis and the origins, like as a prequel, which we kind of both like doing, rather than starting at the beginning. So yeah, there's different ways we could have done it, but I really appreciate your whole comment, Glenn. And if you're over, I actually drink large white wine, not pints. So
but what he means is you could buy him a couple of bottles. So
no, yeah, a couple of no, seriously, Glenn, that's lovely. And please do get in touch if you do come over.
we've got another couple of emails to wrap up this show, and they're both asking about Robin Ince. This one's from Simon. Simon says, "Hi, I'm just emailing to say that I'm a big fan of the D Trout Spinners podcast. It's really nice to listen to other mental fans talk about the show. I got into them when somebody I met whilst travelling, who I bonded with over The Office and Extras, suggested that I listen to them. That was about 6 years ago, and I'm still listening today. Have you considered asking Robin Ince if he'd be a guest on your show? Obviously, he hung around with Carl and Ricky back in the day and was brutally roasted by Carl that time for no reason whatsoever. Yeah. You should also do the interview in the pub to see if he really does hold a pint with two hands, or if he still needs to sit on ham to coax the parasitic worms."
That again, that's a series one as well. They're sitting on ham.
Why would I tell Ricky Gervais?
But yeah, it's so fun. What's his name? Oh, Simon. Yeah, Simon. Thank you for your email. Actually, it's so funny because I hadn't really considered Robin Ince, but Miles had said to me only a week or so before. He'd mentioned it before that, but he'd said to me only this week about how we should really try and look to get Robin Ince on again. So I guess that's validated by your email.
100%. I think Robin would be a fantastic guest, not only because obviously of his association and close friendship with Ricky, but also he's like a big podcaster himself, so we could talk about the nature of podcasts and having significantly less listeners than the Infinite Monkey Cage.
Simon said he's been listening for 6 years. So we did a poll. Mars did this. How long have you been listening to the XFM shows? Let's find the longest term listener. I won't go through all the comments. We had 107 votes, which is a lot for us. So a few weeks, 5%. It surprised me. As people who've been listening, some people only a few weeks, yet they found even our podcast online.
Yeah.
Which over 6 months, 3%, 1 year, 7%. You should have done 1 to 5 years. Doesn't make sense.
All right, sorry, mate.
And 5+ years, 86%. So I think the bulk of people. We had an email from Frances last time, which we read out. She'd been listening for 1 year. But I think especially going by your poll, like what Simon said, about 6 years is probably, and that's for me, it's 6 years. For you, it's about 6 years. For me, it's about 8 years. You 7.
Well, no, when we met for the radio, that was 2012.
It was 8 years ago now.
13, yeah.
So I'd listened to them then. So about 8.5 years ago, I found them. But then you found them slightly after that.
I just remember just listening to the shows, and obviously we text a lot of each other, like little odd quotes.
Yeah.
But also just meeting up at that pub we used to meet in just in Brighton before we did our radio show.
No, give it a plug.
Yeah. No, it was that other one, the King Edwards, I think it was in Brighton.
Oh,
just
right.
Underneath the arches, underneath the
Prince
train. Yeah, that's the one. I just remember like bombing in there, just so excited to talk to someone about this thing that no one else had listened to, but I knew loads about it. And the first time you listen to the shows, like, because everything's so fresh and you're just so excited to talk about it. I'm always a bit disappointed when people don't know what I'm talking about, but then you have to explain to them what the XFM shows, and then how do you even get people interested in them?
No,
you go, here's an episode. Do you start? Where do you start with someone? Like, because there's so much stuff to get. It's like a little secret club, isn't it? Like, where do you start?
Well, I talked to my dad. I don't mind saying my dad was probably the only person who regularly listened to our radio show. He liked the show that we did. He liked listening to us. He also likes. He loves An Idiot Abroad, and he loved Life's Too Short. Not all of it, but he really liked it. So he's a Carl Pilkington fan. Yeah, as soon as I mentioned to him, I'm doing a podcast, right? He's predisposed to like the subject I'm doing. The podcast. He's
predisposed to like you as his son.
He's supportive, yeah, hopefully. He's supportive in that way. But he also likes Carl Pilkington. But when I explained to him what the subject was, I could tell he had no interest. He'd no interest in looking any further. So it is hard, even someone like that. And my dad would actually listen to this podcast anyway, without. So I'm not criticising my dad. And he's only listening to his family because no one else does regularly. But no, it's very hard to get people into it. But I kind of liked that when I first listened, because the fact that I met you and quite quickly you were a mental fan as I was really good to have a little outlet. But it's kind of nice, like having something that you really love. That
it's personal to you.
Well, yeah, that isn't a mass produced.
Well, I always think that with the internet anyway. Like, because in the internet, what's been great is like different. Like when I was at school, and there was like the internet was less of a thing, but like all these different subcultures and like little countercultures and niche interests and stuff. You couldn't find an audience generally who liked the same thing as you. Obviously, the internet's really opened that out, and you can meet, people that are into bondage and stuff like that. That's the only thing I could think of. Or like, people who like to sniff other women's socks. And
stop looking at my internet history and get on with your point.
No, but it's like, I'm not comparing, the XFM shows to a fetish, but it's
it is I know what you mean. It's like, it's not a dirty fetish, but it's kind of it's a fetish in a sense that the people who are into it, my God, they're into it, but there aren't that many of them, and it's kind of a nice little thing. So actually, if I didn't have you, like, to have this to speak with the shows about, because I don't go on message groups and things, certainly not back in 2012, it would have been very frustrating. But because I had one outlet, I was very lucky, that quite like the fact that no one else really knew what it was. It was just that I knew. And now I'm loving the fact that we've kind of in a small way uncovered some of the community that's out there, because there aren't that many of them. But the ones who are there are very dedicated. I'm not saying they're very dedicated to our show, but they're very dedicated to the XFM shows. And it's a lovely audience to kind of target for our show. But it's very difficult. We said this before. I'm not going to get onto this point, but there is a very low ceiling overall for our listenership, because there aren't that many. Like we look at. We're fans of The Office, and there's podcasts about The Office and about Alan Partridge and things like that. They will always have far more people listening because of the subject, whereas our subject's known by about 20 times fewer people. So but we'd never do it any different way. We're very happy we picked this topic. But
100%.
And watch this space for Robin Ince. I don't know. We haven't contacted him yet, actually.
I have contacted him, so rest assured, you are in good hands, Simon. I'm just going through the motions. Obviously, there's a lot of loopholes and barriers that I have to jump over, and hopefully he does it for free as well.
Well, yeah. I don't think he'll want money for it. I mean, he's not. Well. He's like, you think of people like that, and you think, God, how did they earn that, like, loads of money? Like, did enough money to kind of live and be?
I don't think he's like that rich, though, is he?
He's not really rich, but he's done very successful work. It's just not at the level of Ricky Gervais, but most people are. Most people will be familiar with him in the shows, but if you're from America, you won't know. He was in The Office for a small scene. But he's just Ricky Gervais' mate, and he's a stand-up comedian, and he's done pretty well. Yeah, there was one more email about Robin Ince as well.
Yeah, this is from Andrew. But what I was going to say, actually, because you mentioned it just in passing, Gary and I actually met at the weekend, and we did a special Dutch or Otherwise, which is our sister podcast.
We met on Wednesday. It felt like a weekend because it usually is.
Oh yeah, you're right. So yeah, we had a little sort of some fun times in the pub, and we recorded a podcast live. Essentially, live as you can get for a podcast.
We weren't like, I don't know, there wasn't a director there shouting cut and live.
Can you imagine? Good job. But yeah, I'm going to put both these podcasts out at the same time. So, once you've listened to this, go and listen to Dutch or Otherwise live. It's a completely different flavour. You get to know us a bit better, and you get to come to the pub with us. Right?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say, it's not a different flavour. It's similar flavour. It's just different texture of food. I don't know how to describe it, but it is us. Not many people do listen to Dutch or Otherwise. So as Miles says, do give it a listen. It's not in any way, it sounds like important or self-aggrandizing that we're doing a show about ourselves when we're doing it about this topic. Why don't we just do the one about the topic? But it's not about ourselves in that sort of way. It's the old radio show we used to do, and it's more, I like, what I'd call it is Gary and Miles Unfiltered, but Baddiel and Skinner have that title wrapped up. So it is us just unfiltered. So have a listen. We never ever plan. I had no idea what we'd talk about, and we just chat. So, and we don't edit that down much unless one of us says something really bad, which
I don't think that happened this week.
No, but
Our last email is from Andrew. It has always bothered me why Ricky gets so upset about Feeling Good by Muse. Any theories? I'm wondering if there might be some kind of crossover with Matt Bellamy from Muse and Suede, given that Ricky used to manage Suede. This is complete speculation, but his reaction is surprisingly disproportionate over a fairly standard mediocre cover version. P.S. I despise Oasis and everything they stand for. Keep up the great work.
no. Listen, the world needs different types of people in it, and if everyone loved Oasis, it wouldn't be as interesting a place. So that's totally.
That's not
fine.
what you were saying off air. You called him a C.
Yeah,
You called him a.
No, and this is true. That is a joke, Mars saying, because actually off air I said exactly the same as I'm saying now. So, but it's fine. Give them another try. Maybe give the lads another try. They're a great bunch of lads. But yeah, I don't know Ricky's like.
Can I answer this?
Well, let me just say I don't think that's the reason that he said, like, I just can't think. I think it was just something that he was just annoyed at something else, and it just came out like that. I will say this: that cover version, I like that cover version. I don't think it's mediocre, but it's not the best thing ever. But it was actually voted greatest cover version ever.
From what poll?
I think the poll of like Radio 1 listeners or something like that.
I think it would have been one of those things where he'd never heard the track before. It was the first time he heard it. It's obviously a classic song. It is Nina Simone, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
There was not like some surprise person who did something before. Maybe there is, but that's the version everyone knows, to my understanding. So I think it would just be a knee-jerk reaction to someone's bastardizing this like classic song, as one would see it.
Yeah.
And it was in no means, I'm sure he's heard the track since and probably liked it. But I'm sort of with you on that, Andrew, actually. I was always a bit like, what have you got against that version? It's just a song. Like, how can you be so angry about a song? It's fine. It's a perfectly serviceable cover. It's not amazing. There are much better. What's the best cover song?
Well, let's put that out as a poll, and we won't. But I actually think that's one of my favourite cover songs. I think most cover songs, add very little, but their cover song with the guitar solos and things, that particular cover song, I just think, I'm no music expert, as you can music expert.
Well, you're an Oasis expert.
I'm an Oasis expert, which is not music apparently, according to some people. They don't like it. But no, but hang on, I'm not a music expert, but I just think they did so much to that nothing detracts from it. So everything adds to it, and there was so much to add. So I actually like it. So I'm with you in the sense that I don't understand his reaction. I just don't think it's because he managed Suede, and I
don't think so. But that's
just one more email that I won't read it out all of it out, but I had this issue with many times before, and you read them out. So I'm not gonna read it out. I promise you that bit. But I just wanted to read the rest of it out. So, hi guys, as a huge fan of the XFM radio shows, I have to say, when I came across your show, I immediately began the task of binging on all and as quickly as I could. Excuse me. I remember downloading these at some point in maybe 2010, 2011. Obviously, he's referring to XFM shows, they're not our shows. When the shows were a few hours long and each still had the music that I had to fast forward. Then some genius decided to cut them down to just the intro outro that's in the versions out there now, which made listening to them as I nod off at night an all-round better experience. Well, thank you, Connor, for that email, and I'm glad you're binging on us.
I agree with everything he said in that email.
Yeah, it's funny.
Cheers, Connor.
Yeah.
Silence.
He's just taking the piss.
It's fine. It's fine. Hey, we like feedback in the show, good and bad.
But one thing. Sorry, I just said it. Could I just say, Mars has a way of saying it's fine when, like, when some people telegraph what they actually mean. Mars couldn't telegraph anymore when he's not fine. He says, we all do it. We all say we're fine when
he didn't like that, so I just laughed. He wouldn't have enjoyed that.
No, he doesn't like it. That's fine. But Mars can say, I'm fine, so often. And you just know he's been complaining about something for like a week solid. And then he says, no, I'm fine. I'm fine.
No, it's like, I'm like that bloke in a restaurant that orders a curry that's too hot and will literally persevere and have a mango lassi and just eat it until his eyes start to bleed.
Well,
That
that's a lovely image to leave our
it's
listeners.
fine. It's fine.
Yeah,
I can eat it. It's fine. I've got coconut rice. It's fine.
Okay, well, I didn't read out, but
I
Connor,
wanted
thanks
to
for
wrap
your.
up, Gary, because I'm bored of talking to you, mate.
Yeah,
But
me too.
I wanted you mentioned in the week, and I can't. I want to shoehorn this in, but I can't think of a smooth way of doing it. But you said something really interesting about we were talking about. This is a little bit extra, ladies and gentlemen. About like Ricky's Twitter presence and of the right wing press. I just wanted you to, because I thought it was a really, like I said, I want to do this in a smooth way, but I can't. My skills as a presenter are not that high yet. But I want you to explain to the listeners, because I thought it was interesting point and a fresh perspective I've never heard of or read. So yeah, I just wanted you to sort of talk about that conversation we had.
There's a line of thought that it starts at a base point, and that base point usually is freedom of speech, right? And freedom of speech is a very important thing. Like, it's a good thing in general. In general, it's a good thing. So there's nothing wrong with freedom of speech. But so Ricky, over the years, has talked more and more about freedom of speech. However, freedom of speech is like a gateway drug for some people to the far right, or to the, certainly to the right, and often to the far right. It's like a euphemism. It becomes much more than that. And actually, so freedom of speech is used by people on the right to corral and to gin up a base of people. It's like it starts with the fact that the left don't allow speech. This is what they say, that the left don't allow speech, and they want to, stop everything. And so, now Ricky never says that. He never says the left do that. He never says it, right? But he does say there's people who are out there who want to take away your freedom of speech. His fans, therefore, a lot of his fans, because he talks a lot about freedom of speech, crossover. There's a lot of crossover, I believe, from things I've read online, and I can't say this for sure, but there's a lot of crossover with right-wing extremists. Ricky is not a right-wing extremist at all, and he doesn't talk about the left as such, but because he talks about freedom of speech, he's got quite a right-wing audience, and he's like very protective about, you should be able to joke about anything. I broadly agree with that in general. I don't agree with the ways that he kind of goes about saying it, but he has been on some right-wing podcasts, which I wasn't happy about, and yeah, it's made me sort of distance myself from Ricky and liking him even more than before, because you see in his audience there is a viciousness, that he isn't like an agitator in that sense, but he definitely has cultivated it, because freedom of speech is a lucrative thing. So people on the right use it as like the base point for right-wing ideas. For Ricky, it's just the base point. He doesn't go much further than that. So basically, I think there's a lot of his fans that are the same sort of fans that you would see supporting Donald Trump. I know this sounds extreme, but I do believe that. Not all of them. And I know there's people who love Ricky, who hate Trump, who are good left-wing progressives. In my eyes, that's good, my value judgment. But I'm saying I think a lot of them are right-wing. They support Trump. They're probably anti-maskers. Because when you and that's why the thing is with Ricky, he should be more careful, I think, because you have to realise when you're saying things to people.
So much power, isn't there?
So much power. He's got 14 million followers or something like that. He's got a very, there's some great documentaries of people who used to be on the right and have now come back to the left, and they talk about their journey into radicalisation. And their journey it starts with things like Ricky's podcast. I'm not saying, because it's not true, and it would not be fair to say Ricky is directly causing people to move to the far right at all. But when people do move to the far right, it's often through, and I've heard them talk about this, and they didn't mention Ricky, to be fair, but they talk about just things like freedom of speech, different things. PC gone mad, these sort of phrases come up, and they just sort of start to come across them online, and they're present, what they, therefore they get recommended more stuff like that. And eventually it does get to things like Stephen Molyneux, Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin, to name just a few. It gets to those people, and then you become interested in those people. And people who've talked about their journeys to the far right say, I never realized it was happening. I just thought I was just replying to the odd email that said, fight for our freedoms or something. And then suddenly I'm watching all 9 hours a day of these right-wing podcasts. So to sum it up, I think Ricky is not a right-wing extremist at all, but he should be more careful that his words, because his words, I believe, do encourage people in that direction, and therefore there's a lot of crossover in his fans. I just to be clear, I do not think Ricky causes people to become racist. It's not as simple as that. Ricky isn't as blatant as that. It's subtle, and there are many factors that cause people, read Ricky Gervais, to become radicalised. It's not just Ricky Gervais. I'm just saying he's a small part of it. And if you're a small part of something like that, even a small part, you need to sort of step back and think, do I really want to be the advocate for this and be appearing on right wing and become Ricky's a hero to many people, including you and me, but he's a hero to people on the right as well, who for different reasons, for bad reasons, for his plain speaking, his freedom of speech. So that is actually more than what I said in the week, but that's generally kind of my take on it. And so I don't think we should go too much into it. Obviously this was a podcast for listener feedback. It is interesting to add different bits in and obviously make it a bit different, but to actually, as it's a listener feedback show, why not let us know what you think about the feedback itself or what we just talked about with Ricky, and do give Dutch or Otherwise a listen as well. So I'll leave it there unless you had any more thoughts about.
I was going to ask you, do you prefer knobs or tits?
Knobs or tits, that's the kind of question I like.
So no, do get in touch with us, like Gary said, in all of those ways. Very eloquently put, may I just say, Gary. And I always enjoy hearing about you and your opinions, because they make me seem a bit more smarter, and now I can pass those off as my own and express them as my own beliefs. Do get in touch with us, Spinners Podcast on
I do that
Twitter.
with Miles to sort of dumb down my friendship circle. Like I take on Miles's proposal. No, I'm joking. That sounds so like arrogant and snidey. It's not. That. In fact, I'm almost wanting to cut that out. You can leave it in, but leave all this in. Don't. That is such a joke. Anyway.
Or on email at spinnerspodcast@gmail.com. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for your company as always. Do get in touch with us. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe and all that. Gary, what are you going to do for the rest of your day?
Well, I'll probably think about knobs or tits and which one to choose, although I don't have the choice of either, funnily enough. I have it on me, but no, I'm just going to be... you don't want to hear. You always ask me this. I'll just say very quickly. I'm going to be doing referencing.
Great. Love it. Cheers, guys. We'll speak to you soon. Ciao.
See ya.